Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
Hi, so we've got Gerry with us. Gerry, would you mind just introducing yourself, a little bit about who you are, what you're doing at the minute, and what sort of where you come into in terms of the footballing world?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us. My name is Gerry Strain. I'm the Director of Football for Hamilton Academical Football Club. Just now we're the 11th oldest club in Scotland. That's assuming no others go bust. We're a full-time club, but we're currently performing in League One, which is the third tier of Scottish football. We have to retain the full-time status because we've got an elite youth academy.
Okay.
Our youth this year participated in the Champions League.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's quite ironic that we're a third tier outfit at the full-time piece, but our kids are performing up there with, it was Molde we played, the Norwegian champions.
Okay.
We played them a few weeks ago.
How'd you get on?
We lost 3-0 over in Molde. It was a great experience, and then we beat them 4-1 at home.
Oh, wow.
So wait a minute. 4-2 at home. So we lost out 5-1 goal difference.
Oh, gutting.
Which it was sickening because genuinely, if I could show you footage of the game, they're men, they're well conditioned, big physical Vikings, and we're just we gadgets for Glasgow. And that's no disrespect to my team, but we're just a right good football outfit. But a lot of young kids with a 14-year-old playing, a 15-year-old playing. Sorry. Whereas Molde have got guys that are playing, playing and in and around the first team. In addition to that, we actually sold 4 of our players to the English Premier League and Championship over the summer.
Okay.
So 4 of the kids who got us the league victory are now plying their trade down south, giving them pathways into the big ticket, if you like. One of the lads made his Premier League debut last week against Arsenal.
Who was that?
Okay.
For Sheffield United, Ryan Oney.
Okay.
Yeah.
He came on in the 83rd minute of the game at the Emirates. So only 6 weeks ago he was playing football in Scottish League One against Kelty.
Wow.
Coming off the bench, and now he's playing against Arsenal in the Emirates. So
Amazing.
A lot of your viewers probably never heard of Hamilton Accies, or if they have done, they've heard the name and maybe made light of it, or a bit of humour against, there's a bit of satire attached to the fact that we're a League One club and we've got this big long name. But what we do, particularly at youth level, we do really, really well. I would say it's unrivalled in the UK for players coming through, getting onto senior pathways. So and there's a guy called George Cairns, who's academy director. He's been there for 16 years, I think. A guy called Sean Fagan as well, and then all the coaches beneath them. They've created pathways for so many into the game, like James McCarthy, Brian Easton, who's at Burnley, Lewis Ferguson, who's now out in Italy, Scottish internationalist, Ryan Oney, who's in the Premier League just now, several others. So we're a full-time club because we have that part of the club to look after, and we're really proud of that. And the downside of that is a full-time club in League One is a massive drain in your financial resource because you're paying top wages, but you're performing against teams that are either hybrid or part-time. But hopefully we get to win the league this year, or at least get promotion and get us back to Championship with a view to getting back into the SPL.
Okay.
It's fascinating. You need to come up for a game.
Certainly do.
It'd be great to have you up. I know you probably know Hamilton fans and don't know much about us as a
No,
club,
I mean we'd love to come up. Honestly, like I don't know if you've listened to a couple of sort of the episodes recently, but we had Richard Crick from Man v Fat on a few weeks ago, and we were saying to him like I've never been to an away game in my life. I've always wanted to. Like, I love football, but it's just it's the time, the money, and things like that to be able to go to these games. And we're both Arsenal fans, so to go to an Arsenal away game, it's like gold dust to get a bloody ticket. Like, it's an absolute nightmare. So there's just no way you can realistically go to some of the away games. Like, we go to our local ones and now and then, and if they're playing, reasonably local, we'll try and go to them. But yeah, I'd love to come up. That'd be amazing. Go up there, good weekend.
I've got a few good contacts at Arsenal, so I can probably sort you out away tickets.
Oh, Gerry, stop it.
Arsenal's a great club, to be fair. I'm really friendly with a couple of agents who speak very highly of Arsenal, and they've got great contacts in there, so I could sort that out for you. But you get robbed at the weekend, eh?
Oh, don't. We haven't even done it, so we're going to do like a double episode this week. So we do a special, obviously, with you and kind of release that as a separate standalone. We normally do like a review of the weekend's games, but I don't think I want to this week, to be honest with you, after that.
You know, how many excuses not to give a goal does a referee and VAR need? They ignore every one of them. You know, it's...
Honestly, mate, I'm so glad you've said it like that, because I mean, Arsenal have been getting a bit of a bashing over the last 24 hours in terms of you know what Arteta came out and said after the game, and obviously what the club have obviously secondly come out and said afterwards to back him up.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm glad you said that. So it's not just us thinking the same.
No, that's just an impartial view. You know, obviously I can't say too much, but because potentially up here, if I say something about Scottish football, you bring the game into disrepute. But
yeah, of
course. I think VAR's not without its challenges, but it's down to there's this thing that who sits behind the screens. You know, you might know who they are, but where do their loyalties lie? You know, so if you look at the Spurs and Liverpool game a few weeks back, you know, and it's a game changer. You know, granted it was a mistake and it was a miscommunication, but that's one of the innocent ones. But it cost dearly. You know, and Liverpool deserve to win. I think on the balance of play, but.
Absolutely. It's those knock-on effects, isn't it? It's that one event in the game might have stopped a red card for argument's sake, but what's the knock-on effect of them being down to 10 men? So there's more space. You're utilising the right hand side, left hand side, whatever it may be, and it's that constant build-up.
Aye, it all changes. It's but the Scottish VAR, there's a thing up here about there's only two teams in Scotland according to many, like Celtic and Rangers. You know, if you ask a Celtic fan, they'll tell you that the referees are biased against them, and if you ask Rangers fans, they'll say the same.
Yeah, of course.
Hamilton Accies fans call them both the ugly sisters. It's kind of, and the irony is, it's you would drive by Hamilton Stadium to go to Celtic Park or Ibrox. So we actually, they don't do us any favours commercially or fan base wise, because people leave that catchment area to travel to Glasgow to watch the both of them. You know, and we could be doing we've only got 6,018 seats in our stadium.
Right. Okay.
Average attendance is about 1,800. Okay. So it's not massive, but you think you'd be able to tap into that demographic quite easily, but it's no straightforward at all. We had a fireworks event in the stadium last night with one of the charities, and there was 5,500-6,000 people at it.
Oh, wow.
But we get 1,800 for a game, and it's all from the same community.
Yeah.
So
how much is it? How much is a ticket? What's the ticket prices?
Roughly 20 quid. You know, is the average. I mean, some of the cup games. There was a cup game last week, and it was £12 and £8. The latter stages is normally £20, but I think £20 is probably an average.
Yeah.
Season tickets are really, really cheap in comparative terms to what you pay at the Emirates, and stuff as you'd expect. But it's just this. I think there's an apathy last year because we got relegated. The fans weren't happy, quite rightly so, with where we ended up. But the irony is we've now got more season ticket holders this year than we had last year.
Oh, really?
It's bizarre. So there's a lot of politics going on. A lot of fans were unhappy with the owner last year. The guy who owned the club. It got quite nasty at times. It was quite it's kind of vitriolic. I experienced that myself. I still do.
Joe, what I was going to ask. So just that you said it. 'Cause obviously, the whole Man United thing at the moment, as an example. Obviously, the Glazers get bashed week in, week even daily at the moment. And like from your perspective, people blame the owners, they blame the directors of football. It's you head guys that will always bear the brunt of it. Obviously, managers as well. How do you deal with that? And what's it like dealing with that on a day to day?
Well, I'll give you like, hopefully 2 or 3 answers here that culminate into one. So, personally, for me, it doesn't bother me. It's war over ducks back. So fair enough. Yeah, I'm used to being called a fat bastard or an arse or whatever.
I'm used to that. That's from Will.
So that doesn't bother me. It's honestly it's par for the course, because ultimately the people around about me, my subordinates and my superiors will judge how good or bad I am at my job. And that's no disrespect to any fans. Everybody's got an opinion. I keep saying this, I've said it so many times. Everyone's got an opinion, they're entitled to it. And everyone's opinion's right. But there are only so many opinions that matter.
Yeah.
And that's a bit that, see if you just kind of keep reminding yourself and reassuring yourself of that state of fact. So the opinions that matter in a football club, in my opinion, we've got a manager, John Rankin, who is one of the best coaches in Scotland. And he'll go on to bigger and better things, whether it's through us or whether it's through a different route. But he'll become one of the best managers in the UK, I'm sure. And that's not me kind of blowing smoke up his backside. That's when you look at how hard he works and how thorough he is, and how respected he is, and then take away who he is as a person from that. He's just a right good man. When he's great with people, and that's like he's a perfect package for what you'd want in a modern day coach. So in my opinion, he's a guy that's employed to be the football brains. It's not me, it's not the owners, it's not the chairman, it's not the other directors, it's John and John's assistant Darren McKinnon, who played at the top of Scottish football for a decade. You know, and he was one of the kind of most feared centre midfielders that you come up against. People hated playing him. So the other two guys in their dugout, they know what they're talking about, and what they're doing now is they're giving our team an identity we never had before. You know, when Hamilton won the Premier League before, if someone, you know, if you asked, you know, what you expected to play against, it was, you weren't looking forward to it. It was a horrible game. They were in your face. It's a plastic pitch. It was nasty. Now we're playing fast attacking football when we're creating. I checked the stats today, actually, not because of this, but something else. Apart from Celtic and Falkirk, we create the most opportunities per game in Scottish football.
Wow, that's a feat.
That's a feat. Now Falkirk are top of our league, so obviously we need to address that. You know, we need to get ahead of them. The top of our league by 3 points now and 4 goals on us, I think it is. But therein lies a story in itself. You know, that two teams in League One who are going toe to toe with each other are creating more chances than Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs per match. So that reaffirms for me that the guys who've got the opinions on the football side have got the right opinions, because eventually these chances will come to fruition. You know, it's our job to put the right players in place to make sure that the philosophy they've got is delivered. So that's one side. The other side is my kids are exposed to some of the abuse that I've had. Do you know, so I had a kind of personal ding dong with some fans, unfortunately, and the club was going through a right bad time in January. A lot of it was nonsense. You know, it was a lot of nonsense, but you know, there's that fight or flight thing, and I've never been a fast runner. So I've only really one option, you know. Yeah.
Revert back to what you know best.
It's part of who you are when you grow up. You grow up in a scheme or an estate. You know, you stay true to your convictions and your beliefs. And so my son's exposed to stuff, and my family, my wife, is exposed to some stuff. That's not nice to see. But again, I just need to say to them, look, just ignore it. It's somebody who doesn't know me's opinion of me. Just ignore it and turn off. But they take it more personally because it's their dad or husband or whatever. My wife probably agrees with most of it, to be fair. She's probably doing it herself. You know? But that bit of it, that bit of it's not nice. Again, it doesn't bother me, but it's because I'm trying to teach my son, you need to get used to this anyway, because as you grow up, you're going to have to deal with other scenarios similar. But then I question, you know, well, who would do that and why?
Yeah,
I don't have time to sit at a computer and lambast people or you know, call people out. I don't have time for it. You know, it's I'm busy in my life. I've got quite a good happy life, quite a balanced life. So I then take stock and think, well, you know, it could be worse. I could be sitting behind the keyboard having to slag someone off.
Exactly.
You know, so, and then the other side of it is you've got the club. So you've got last year the owner of the club, a guy called Colin McGowan, who sold it this year. He was putting 6 figures, quite hefty 6 figures, in to keep the club alive.
Oh wow!
You know, but he was the main focal point of the abuse, because Colin never understood football. He openly admits himself he never dealt with the football stuff.
Right.
he had a board to do that for him.
Yeah.
And a board of people who he thought were football experts that would deliver that side of the business, and he can go and focus on the money side. But the gap between the fans and the club just became massive. And when I get involved with them, I tried to buy the club initially. That was how I became involved with them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I never appreciated that the gap in the bridge between the club and the fans was so huge. Do you know, I will get a few wins and it'll be fine, and I completely underestimated that. It was like naivety and at its best. I would even go as far as saying there was a hatred there.
Wow.
Between a section of the fans and some within the club. And purely by default, I became part of that club. I was on the same side as the guy that they hated.
Right, okay.
So by default, you then took the flak because of that.
I took a bit of flack because of that, and also because I was quite vocal with things that I didn't think were right. You know,
Okay.
I don't think that just because you're a fan and because you care and because you spend £20 a week going to see a club, I think there's a line over the abuse that people get. And at this time, I wasn't getting abuse. To be fair, it was other people within the club. But the irony was, I found that more hurtful than me being abused.
Yeah.
I can't get around that. I need to go and do a study myself to see why.
Yes,
Well, I suppose
we're
they're your
psychologists.
guys.
No, I found that quite hurtful because I'm watching what these people are going through day on day within a club as small as Hamilton to try and keep the wheels in the bus, and I'm seeing what they're doing, legitimately doing, but that was never conveyed to the fans. The communication wasn't great. It wasn't good enough, you know, for a professional football club outwardly. I had an issue with that. I think we let ourselves down communicating. The communication as a board wasn't good enough. You know, we never knew. We turned up for a game one night and there's a new guy in the pitch and we're like, who's this? Oh, I see him. You know,
Oh my God.
so there was like, now if we're dealing with that as a board, think how the manager feels and think how the fans feel.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
It's an interesting point because we was talking about the owner of Sheffield Wednesday last week, I think it was, and what he's been saying, and it was almost like you can kind of understand where he's coming from with the abuse that his family's getting, but has he taken that too far?
I can't speak for him. I know, but to be fair to our fans, you know, the loyal fans, there's not that many of them, and they are loyal, you know, and they do care about their club, and all they want to know is that their club that was founded in 1874 is going to survive another 100 years and not do a Rangers or an Airdrie or whatever game.
Yeah, of course.
So they just want to know their club's safe, secure, and they can continue to watch it. They're real fans. You know, if you look at a Celtic or a Rangers, particularly in Scotland, I would imagine if you go a number of years without success, the fans will disappear. You know, but then you get the ones that I think Celtic going through they're chasing that 9 in a row season. They have had an empty, 3/4 of the stadium full because they couldn't fill the seats. It was only Brendan Rodgers coming in. So all these people come from nowhere, but at Hamilton we don't have that. We've got a nucleus and a core who go everywhere. And then at home there's a nucleus and a core that's part of their life. And I don't think that was respected in the correct fashion by the club. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I don't think the club willingly went out their way to disengage. But it was almost as though this rift just seemed to build and build and build, and it got to a stage that it was untenable, you know. And that was probably the stage that I'd come in, not realising what was there in front of me.
Yeah.
And then I was starting to kind of speak factually about things, and it just was not being accepted. You know, it wasn't. I mean, I was using stats to back up what I was trying to convey, and the stats were similar to the 300 season ticket holders. There's clubs in the 7th or 8th tier of Scottish football who've got that. You know, so the comparison I was making was, by default, if we're basing it on here, we're a club at the lower regions of the Scottish pyramid system. You know, but that's not what fans want to hear. But I'm just being honest, because for the expectations and ambitions we've got, we need to find money from somewhere to help us get there. You know, because we can't hold on to players, we can sell them. They're not with us to play 20 years at Hamilton Accies. They're with us to try and get a pathway into the Premier League or the SPL or go abroad.
Yeah.
So our duty of care to them is to sell them. And then the club make money and the money goes back in and we just recycle and recycle. So we have to find money from somewhere. and it's approximately £2 million a year is what it costs to run the club. So it's a challenge when you try and convey that to fans. To be fair to them, it's not their problem.
Yeah, and they're paying. Football's an entertainment game, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's.
Well, we were entertained last year. We were dreadful to watch. That wasn't the manager's fault. That was our fault as a club for not supporting the manager correctly, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's it. I think as a club, if we sit back and take stock on it and speak openly and honestly, I might be shot down for this. I think that we let our fans down and we let our manager down. Because John Rankin coming into that job, that was his first kind of major gig, at that level.
Yeah.
Darren McKinnon coming back to the club was and is a club legend. And we're responsible for playing with their reputations. So that's the reality of it. That's maybe other directors watching this will say that guy's a bit soft or whatever, but it's no soft.
Honest.
No, I was going to say it's refreshingly honest, that, because you don't hear, like the Sheffield Wednesday, and just going back to him for a sec, you don't hear owners, directors of football, whatever, at that top level being that honest and open with the fans. Like they know what's going on.
Because at the end of the day, you might not agree with the fans' opinion, like I said earlier. You might not agree with their version of how football should be played, but they're not daft. They're watching the same as you're watching. Now, they might miss some of the nuanced stuff that, why you do certain things. Like I think last year we heard something about the left winger with a winger, and excuse my language, but who the fuck does he think he is? Going over to that corner, taking his time like that, playing keepy-uppy. Right, but the keepy-uppy was a signal for the move we were going to play for that set piece.
Okay.
Right, so, but this is stuff that fans won't hear that, fans won't know that, because you're not going to share that intelligence.
No, of course.
Right? But, so there's certain things that are finely nuanced within a game that might look out of the ordinary, that might look like something that it's not. But the perception is that you're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, you need a goal, and then your winger's going playing keepy-uppy with the ball, taking his time at the corner flag.
Yeah.
He's doing that because he's passing out a message and a signal that you're hoping to convey to your other teammates without spelling it out. But there's wee things like that. So if we're doing that at our level, you can imagine what Man City and Tottenham and Arsenal and Liverpool are doing at their level. Probably get grommets in their ears, or something.
Implants and all sorts.
So there's that, but I'm glad that you've taken that as being honest, because that's my job. My job. There's certain things that you just don't discuss because it's for the privilege of board level only or whatever. But when it comes to watching the game as a spectacle, and you're saying it's an entertainment game, you have to be honest, because we're all watching the same thing, and we're all expecting the same outcome. So I don't have an issue being honest. I'd rather be honest and go to sleep at night than sit and blow smoke up people's asses and be laughed at and be out the door because they made a mess.
Yeah, I mean, there's also at the end of the day they're paying to watch the team play. So there's a slight sense of they're entitled to their opinion. They are, paying the bills to a certain, or contributing to the bills.
Everyone is. It goes back to what we said at the start. Everyone's got an opinion and entitled to it, but the opinions that really matter at that moment in time, because everything's just a moment in time. It's only temporary. But the opinions that matter at that time are the guy that's picking a team and his assistant who's assisting him. And then the analyst or the sports scientist, whoever's giving a bit of input about he's fit, he's not fit, or whatever. They're the opinions that matter. It's what I think about it doesn't matter a damn. I'll speak to a manager before, during, and after every game, and it'll be a conversation. And he might take something that I've said to him and think, actually, I never thought of that, and he'll go and check it out himself, because that's what a good manager would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'll be like, why does Gerry think that? Is it because he's talking about, or has he spotted something that we've missed in the heat of the moment? But it's up to him what he does with that feedback. My job's not to help him put a team in apart and pick his tack. My job's to get him the players that he needs to deliver his vision of football.
So what is your job on a day-to-day then? What would you say you do?
Also, how long have we got?
Yeah.
I probably make a mess of more than I do right. I've got the role at the football club, which is a far bigger role than expected. I've got my own business as well. Out with that, but the football piece is taking up a lot of time. My role would involve, what it involved this summer. So I took over the role on the 1st of June. We got a new owner, Serif Zengin, a Turkish chap. He's different class. If you think I'm honest, you want to get Serif on your show.
All right, Gerry, we'll get you to get him on for next week if that's all right then, mate.
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. He's an honest guy, and he's driven. He's driven. He's very determined, and he's a winner. So all those boxes, I completely respect him, and that's run through brick walls for him. The same as your manager, do the same for him. So he asked me to do a certain thing, role-wise within the club for the 1st of June, and that basically involved getting players into the club because we didn't have any. The way the contracts in Scotland work, they're slightly different to the English FA. Their contracts generally come to an end on the 31st of May.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Whereas down south, it's maybe the 1st or 2nd week in June that the contracts come to an end. So on the 1st of June this year, we had, I think it was 7 signed players. And pre-season was the 25th of June or something, I think it was, or something like that.
Wow.
So we didn't have a team, we never had a squad. And bearing in mind we'd just been relegated, we had to quickly put together a squad that we hope would win the league and allow, sustain us to get back to the SPL in 2 years. So initially it was like a 2-year plan, a 2-year vision that we thought we could try and come up with. So we quickly pulled together the analysis of the players that we wanted, and it was head down, backside up for 3 weeks to get the players in. And we've done it. We brought in, I think I've brought in 16 players so far, all of which belong to us with the exception of one who's on loan.
Okay.
Whereas last year we had a number of loans from Newcastle, Stoke, Fulham and the likes.
Okay.
And,
That's quite a significant change, isn't it, to go from loaning those sort of players into then investing in the club like that?
Yeah, it's more than significant. I mean, it was it was. We've now got a squad of assets, that are worth, depending where you look, transfer room or transfer market or whatever. I think transfer room for squad's worth about 5 million in total, which you think in England, it's comparative terms, the kid we sold to Sheffield United was sold for like 200-300 grand. He's made his Premier League debut, so he's worth now purely because he's played right. But but the value on the transfer room's 5 million. The value on a transfer market, I think, is 4.5 or 4. Depends where you look. But they're our players. Wow. We own them. And what we did was we gave them a 2-year contract as well. So most of them get a 2-year contract. We were confident that these guys were good enough to take us through 1 or 2 levels, and we just need to add to that, and then hopefully we give ourselves a fighting chance of at least surviving in the next league if we get promoted. But the change in that structure was significant. What it also means is the players are committed to the club. So no disrespect to a loan player, but we had kids going back to Fulham and Newcastle, and they knew they were going back, whether they were not. Yeah. So I'm not saying they weren't invested, but they're going to go back to get a wage for another 2 or 3 years. It doesn't really matter. Whereas these guys we've got now, they're buying into the club, they're buying into John's message, they're buying into the way of playing football, and hopefully they've got a good relationship with the fans that carries us through, the campaign and next. So that was my role, was to put that in whatever ways I had to. I then had to put in place an analyst department.
Okay.
So we already had a first team analyst, Declan McKean, different class. He came from Bristol City, a great guy. So he's come in, and he's now got a team of scouts covering the whole of Scotland and Ireland, the whole of UK and Ireland. Wow. So we take in, I think it's 47 games a week we take in as a club. So for a League One outfit, we're operating at a Premier League level from a scouting and intelligence capacity now. Whether or not we can afford to get those players in is another thing. But what we will do is we'll find a gem in the National League, for example, who would be happy to come up, ply his trade, maybe get a move, and we'll we'll find a couple of gems in Ireland whose league finished on Friday last week, and the playoffs are this week.
Right.
There'll be a few gems over there, and hopefully through that scouting coverage, we've now got visibility of players that we never had before. That infrastructure's in place, and that's down to Declan. Granted, I've given him a bit of assistance with here's what we need and here's how we do it. But Declan's gone and put that in place and spends a massive amount of time on it. And in the medical department, we brought that in-house as well. So we had a head of medical, and then we've got a couple of assistant physios. We've got a sports science piece, some full-time guys in there, and some interns from Ireland.
So sorry, was that outsourced previously then, Gerry, did you say? You've just brought it in-house this season?
Yeah, the physio piece was outsourced. There's pros and cons to that, you know. I don't think it worked as well last season as it could have for whatever reason. You know, I wasn't directly involved in it.
Right.
But I think with it being in-house, you've got a lot more control. The guys who were involved last year, really competent in the field. But I think through knowing football, players are kind of creatures of habit. And they want things to be in-house, and they need mollycoddled, they need loved, and they need attention. You know, like some guys moan if the peg's not properly, you know, and you need to, it's a change game for what it was, but so the more that's in-house, the better, because if you ask any senior pro yourself, they'll always say they'll try and find excuses. You know, the food's not good.
Yeah.
My boots are not right. There's always an excuse. So your job really is to mitigate that risk, and the only way to do that is to control it. You know, and so we've now got the medical piece in-house. We've got the analysis piece, the sports science piece, and then John with the football piece it's all in-house. And then the academy sits just kind of parallel with that. So it's a massive operation for such a small.
Yeah, sorry, Will, just to interject quickly. I was scrolling through, I wasn't being rude. I was trying to find your post that you posted just as the season started on LinkedIn. Because there was a post and you listed about 412 different things that you'd actioned over like 13 weeks of the summer.
Yeah, that's right. Aye.
I was just trying. Honestly, like you're very active on LinkedIn, so I couldn't find it. But there was so much on there. You've doing some academy stuff, obviously, finding the first team. You're doing some pitch improvements, I think, or something like that before, or training improvements.
Yep.
Like, how'd you get the time?
To be fair, it was that was a challenging time. That was challenging. That was about a 6-week period where it was just like shoulder to the wheel. It was tough, and and my business had to suffer during that period. So basically, I had no focus whatsoever on my own business. Away from it was 100% attention to football stuff. My family life suffered as well because I wasn't putting the time and effort in that should have been at home. It was just football. But the reason for that, and the God's honest truth behind that, was I think we let our manager down that badly last year as a club,
right,
that I wasn't prepared to go into the position I'm in and allow him to be let down again. So there was an emotional driver behind that. It wasn't just about it's not about me. It's about almost protecting. Look, you don't deserve what you experienced last year. I'm going to put my full weight behind you. There's plenty of weight on me. I'm going to put my full weight behind making sure that you've got as good a chance as you have. The rest of it's down to you. So I had to get it right, and I had to put the time and effort and the commitment into it. I couldn't do it half-hearted. And I wanted to make sure that I took as much of the pressure away from John as I possibly could, so that he could focus on what he's amazing at. That was my goal. That was my personal objective, and that was my driver. And I spoke about that at home. I spoke about it in here to my staff. My objective was, I know that we've got an amazing manager who's an amazing guy as a human being. He's fundamentally he's a good guy, fundamentally, and on top of that, he's very, very good at what he does, and he's got a lot of progress still to make. But we were hindering that progress, and I thought that we played his reputation a bit, and I didn't think it was right. And at a personal level, that I struggled with that, so I wasn't going to let that happen again. And I had the backing of the owner who put me into this role, so I didn't want to let him down either. And because he's trusted me with the keys to his baby, it's like he's just bought this club if I go and bring in drivel that's no good enough for the job, it's going to reflect badly on him as well. So the pressure I put myself under was pretty immense, but it was for well-founded reasons. It was for really well-founded reasons. It was to try and serve and protect John, and to serve and protect the guy that just bought the club.
Yeah.
And it was a privileged position to be in. A great learning curve. I probably made, I don't know how many mistakes I made. Because of the amount of activity I was doing, the amount of mistakes is probably through the roof, and I've not found them yet.
But you've got to learn from that, though, don't you? Exactly.
Exactly.
I will learn from it. I don't mind learning from it. But what I do know is that I kind of cleared the way for John to do his bit. And we only lost our first game competitively this season on Saturday. So we were unbeaten from July all the way through to Saturday there. So that kind of tells me that was the right thing to do, and John's the right guy to do what he does.
Yeah.
So it's that's what it was, but it was a significant workload. I probably do in a more smarter fashion if the same thing came round again. I'd be more clever, but with Gent, there was only me. The infrastructure wasn't there. The owner of the club was in Turkey because he was going through the acquisition. A lot of the stuff had to be kept confidential because obviously there's a change in ownership and stuff. And so I was literally flying solo. The owner of the club previously helped me massively. With a bit of advice and a bit of guidance. He helped me massively just deal with it.
Right.
But time wise, it was a 24-hour job for about 6 weeks. But it was what a way to learn. What a way to learn.
Exactly.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, the manager's done me a favour, because if he was hopeless and we started this season shit, I'd have been out of job, didn't I?
Yeah, the pressure's on then. You get a few more fans, shouting a few abusive terms at you, for sure.
Well, I couldn't get any worse, mate. So that wasn't bothering me. But no, that's the reasons for it. It was significant, and I was involved in stuff that a director of football shouldn't have to be involved in.
Yeah.
But it needed doing. Things like buying socks for the players turning up.
Really?
On Thursday of pre. It's things you can think about. But because there's a change of kit supplier and we're waiting a kit coming, you've got all these new players coming in. Some from Premier League clubs in Scotland, and there's no training socks, just wee things. Supply of water, supply of towels, and just things that you take for granted. So there was stuff I was getting involved in that was time consuming, that was none of my business and none of my role, but it needed doing. And it was it was a learning curve. It was good for me. Put stickers on my chest and take them off my head.
It sounds like there's that passion from you and that love of the club. So you're now, and it's working, because like you say, you've lost one game now, 3 points off top place. So I assume it's all you're doing all of this for that, to then gain promotion and get to the SPL, I assume.
Aye, but again, it goes back to, it's not the job I do. The job I do is like one cog in a massive wheel.
Yeah.
The real work is done by John, Darren, and whoever they've got on the training field. Because if that part doesn't work, it doesn't matter what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't affect what happens in the park. I'm not qualified to. I mean, we had a conversation today, myself, the chairman, and the owner of the club, and we had a conversation about the game on Saturday. We lost 1-0. Should we have lost? Should we not? What could we have done better? All this kind of stuff. And at one stage, I'd said to both the guys, look, with due respect, there's 3 of us here sitting having a conversation with the benefit of hindsight, and not one of us has got a qualification in football.
When you put it so simply, that's mad. That's absolutely mad.
But that's the reality, and that's probably the reality in 95% of boardrooms across football.
Yeah.
So, but it was one of those ones that I'm sitting saying, right, I know we're disappointed we get beat. I know that we need to win the league. I know that it's put pressure on us. But we created 15 chances. The other team created 4 or 5. I know you can't live your life in stats, but eventually the stats will come good.
Yeah.
If we created 2 chances, then fine, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
We've still created another 15 chances in a game that we never played well.
Yes.
You could argue half the team never turned up and we created 15 chances. So it was at that stage. It's how can I communicate effectively with my board? And put it in layman's terms that we pay him because he's the expert.
Yeah, exactly.
We're here because it's your job to bring money into the club and to make sure that we can prosper and grow. So it's good to maybe, if you can, keep that in mind. I know the emotion gets in the way and stuff, but sometimes the reality checks is good. It's, if any of us were managers, we'd be sitting in a dugout and we'd be, what would we have done differently? Yeah. It's mad. You get caught up in the moment. So
fascinating. Yeah, it's genuinely fascinating. Like the insight I'm getting here it's blowing my mind. I love this.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine if you go to you mentioned the Glazers. I mean, what do they know about football? I don't know because I don't know much about them. But I wouldn't have thought they know as much as Ten Hag.
Yeah.
How do they make players do what they want them to do?
Yeah, exactly. They don't, and we're seeing the ripple effect that's kind of has on the clubs, doesn't it? When you either don't let your manager manage, or you've got like that sort of background noise rumbling on.
Well, it must filter through. I think I don't think for a minute that our manager last year was told what to do by anyone. I couldn't tell you if that's the case or not, but I don't think that's the case because I reckon he probably walked if that was the case. He's quite a strong enough character. But what I do know is that the ripple effects from off the field certainly affected on the field, both commercially because there wasn't enough money, and then just through a general satisfaction coming to your work. You've seen it that people were turning up last year and doing a job and going. Whereas if you go into the stadium just now, people don't want to leave. Even I hate going in because I know I've got other stuff to do. So I actually hate getting in because I get caught up in this. It's just a good place to be, and the people are in it are great, and they're honest people.
Yeah.
I had a run in with the assistant manager after our first game. We drew with Cove, the team that beat us the weekend, and I'd walked in. I'd said to him, "What the hell happened there?" And he said to me, "Oh, we need a box-to-box midfielder." And I replied to him in a fashion that he didn't appreciate, and the two of you ended up kind of, it was very, very, very close to to rolling about together, but there's an honesty there that, and that night we're having a conversation on the phone, and it's done, dusted, and I completely respect his passion, his honesty.
Yeah.
And now we get to today, we lost a game at the weekend, and I was sitting thinking, shit, see we the box-to-box midfielder.
But I suppose, the longer you work with people, you build up that working relationship, you know how each other work a bit more, and obviously you learn more about each other from a personal level as well. So eventually you can have these conversations, even in the heat of the moment. Obviously the passion in football is just, I think, is unmatched really in anything else. So that's always going to flare to the top, isn't it?
I think that was a bad one because I felt under pressure because I was responsible for bringing the players into the club and we needed to go off to a good start.
Yeah.
So I probably allowed that pressure to get to me. And then Darian was allowing the pressure to get to him because he's responsible for what happens in the park. And we drew a game we should never have drawn. So I think it was just like it was a perfect ingredient for a blow up, and you probably get two of the wrong guys.
Yeah.
At the same time, so it was only going to go one way, but what a great, honest, passionate guy, so you'd rather have that in your dressing room and your coaching staff than somebody that doesn't care,
Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. But it's fascinating. There's so much goes on that you just take for granted as a fan, or things you don't even think about. When you're looking at football for the outside in, there's loads that happens, and it's been a learning curve for me. It's taught me a lot about business as well. It's taught me. I'm involved in a business that delivers service, and the football piece, like you said earlier, Benjamin, it's the entertainment business. We need to remember who we're entertaining. It's no us sitting with suits on in the director's box. It's the punters that are coming out, the wives and their kids and their grandkids. That's who we can serve. That's who we exist to serve. And that's often forgotten about. It's often forgotten about, which is unfortunate.
You played at quite a good level though, didn't you? Back in the day.
Not quite, mate. No. I went down to Swindon Town with it was Glenn Hoddle had just left and John Gorman took over. A guy called Adrian Riddiford had brought me down there. I think he passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Adrian Riddiford and John Trollope were in charge of Youth Academy. And down there, I didn't make it. I wasn't good enough. Down there, they made the Premiership that year. They had Jan Aga-Fjortoft and John Moncur.
Yeah.
They had Nicky Summerby, Paul Bowden, Brian Kilcoyne, Laurie Sanchez, and that was a really good team. They get relegated the following year. Steve McMahon took over, and Steve McMahon's directive was that, I think actually English football might have changed at the time. I'd need to go and fact check this, but there was a thing about it was regionalisation of clubs, so that you couldn't bring clubs in from out with. It wouldn't have affected me, but that would be a good. See, if I kept that as a good excuse as well.
Do you need to clip it and edit that back?
That's shit hot. They couldn't wait to sign me. But no, it wouldn't have affected me because it's coming from Scotland, and they had a couple of Scottish kids there at the time as well. But Steve McMahon had this thing about local focus and local growth, whereas Glenn Hoddle had a more holistic view. So he was basically trying to make Swindon something that was greater than a provincial club.
Right.
His philosophy, the way he played and stuff. That was a good experience. Ironically, Jan Aga-Fjortoft was there, and they sold him to, I think, Middlesbrough. And last month I was in Molde for our Champions League game with the kids. And I actually met up with his kind of best mate, who is the director of Molde. So he tried to phone him for us, and his father's now in charge of Iceland. Benedict, his dad. So he's director of Molde. His dad's the Iceland manager, and the connection with Fjortoft. It's mad. So
That's crazy.
I never made it, mate. I wish I had done. I wish I'd stuck in. But what happened with me was I'd bounced about some clubs, but it was never big clubs. No disrespect to Swindon or Queenie South or anything like that, but I'd bounced about and I wasn't good enough just to make it to that level. And I gave in. So see, instead of, when I look at kids now, like I'm signing players for League 1 or League 2, the wages are not great, but they're playing professional football in front of 2,000-3,000 a week. I should have done that instead of giving in. But my psyche, if you like, is if I'm not going to be able to get what I want from it, I just turn my back on it, and I'll focus. I've got a lot of drive, and I'd rather focus that on something I know I can do well. But I wish, in hindsight now, I'm 44 now. In hindsight, I wish I'd just bounced about, even playing junior football or something. I wish I'd made a career for myself at that level, but I just packed it in. What I started doing quite early was a really good football network.
Right.
Through being involved in football and keeping my toe in it, and I started getting kids clubs. When I'm saying kids, I was only 25 at the time. Do you know what I mean? But I was getting people clubs that had been freed, so people might have been freed from Celtic, Rangers, Hearts or whatever. I put a few players down to Swindon Town because I kept in touch with Ross McLaren and a couple others down there. Although Ross never kept in touch with me. But that was a gateway for me to put people down to Swindon. And I got basically tried, because I know what the rejection's like.
Yeah.
It was easy for me to give that advice.
Yeah, of course.
To somebody who's been freed, and it was almost like it was bittersweet. It's like I know I wasn't good enough. It's not because I had an injury. It's not because you get all these bad luck stories. I just wasn't good enough. That's what it boils down to. But I could take that experience and pass it to someone who is good enough, and basically advise them not to give in, and to keep doing it. And I've got a lot of gripes with football as it stands today with the academy structures. Not so much ours, because we exist for the kid. When you look at Celtic and Rangers and these big guys, they bring kids in, and they're never going to get a pathway through to the top, and then they get released and they fall out of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Massive abundance of talent that Scottish football could benefit from.
Yeah.
All these academies that we're missing out on. And then 5 years down track, you get punters saying, Scottish football shit, there's not enough. It's because we've just lost a generation of players.
Yeah.
Because the big guy brought them all in like a sausage factory and we've not progressed them. So we're losing all the talent. And it's that for me is I don't know how you address that. One of the ways could be reserve football. We're starting to reintroduce it now, but a proper reserve league. Like, when I was down south, when I was down to Swindon and it was in the trial stages, I was allowed to play reserve football, but you're playing against guys that are pros.
Yeah.
And you play a bad pass, and they tell you played a bad pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to learn.
Absolutely, yeah. Because football is brutal, isn't it? Realistically,
Aye.
And
But
you need to learn that.
When you've got a senior guy telling you that you're a dumpling, because of a pass that you've played, you don't do it again.
No, of course not.
if you're a kid playing under 18s football or under 21s or under 23s against under 18s, under 21s, 23s, you can only progress to the same level as what you're playing against or what you're playing with.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're playing with a guy that's 33, 34-year-old that's been round the block and he's trying to get himself fit to get back in the team. He's got 15 years playing experience that he can pass on and share with you, show you different techniques or different strategies or structures during the game that will help you develop your game.
Yeah, of
course. So there's probably so much that we can do that we don't do certainly in Scotland. I know we're going through a good spell just now. We our national team are doing not too badly. Well, well, you guys keep me down. You showed us a different level again. But I think that there's certainly progression there, but we need to. How do we get to a Bellingham level? How do we get to a Harry Kane level? It's a bit up again.
Yeah, I think that's a totally different conversation, though, isn't it? That one, especially those two as.
It starts at youth, doesn't it? It starts in that where that is, and I think England have done the same sort of thing as what you're saying is getting that youth in, but then just not utilising it, and then they just go and then don't, and then they're playing sort of down in sort of local leagues. So I think it's definitely a problem.
Aye, it is, but how you fix that? It's above my pay grade.
Yeah,
I'd love to sit in a committee that gave ideas in, but it takes a lot of investment, it takes a lot of patience, and I think it takes somebody with the balls to turn around and say, hold on a minute, we can't afford to lose another generation.
Yeah.
So if it's mandatory that every club in football's got a reserve team, right away in Scotland you've got another 40 teams created.
Mm-hmm.
You get another 40 teams of 15 players potentially. It's a lot of players that are getting they're getting football at a higher level than under 18s and 23s. So to me, it goes back to the common sense analogy. It's like just keep it simple. Don't confuse it.
But does that come with additional cost though as well to run a reserve team? Because finances it is a big thing, of course, as well. So
that's why we don't have it up here. It's a cost thing, but surely to go to the national game, then have to come up with the resources or the ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Or FIFA or UEFA have to come up with a way of doing it that it's benefiting the game in general. Because it's a powerful sport. It connects so many people in so many different ways. But at the same time, for kids coming through, our job should be to make pathways for them. That's our role, and at the same time as entertaining the fans that watch for first team football. If you've got an academy or you've got a youth system, it needs to be legitimate to the point that you can proof test it and say, well, come to us and you've got a better chance of getting a career in the game than there would be if you go to Celtic, Rangers or whoever. And fortunately we can do that just now, but it's how do we make it better again with limited resource. I mean, to contextualise that, our academy operate with a £300,000 budget.
Okay.
Mouldy was £2.5 million.
Wow.
So I was sitting with a guy called Thomas Mort, who played for Mouldy, and he was assistant manager at Mouldy, and he's now in charge of the youths. And he was telling me it's £2.5 million they spend on their academy set up and their infrastructure, and we've got 300 grand.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Even in Scotland, I'm not going to name the teams, but I know one of the teams particularly because I spoke to their director of football, and they're spending 1.6 million. They're nowhere near where we are. So that's down to the hard work of the guys that's in that system and what they're prepared to put into it.
Yeah,
Does that go for women's football as well? So if having a women's team, is that kind of a similar outlay and stuff?
Well, I see with the changing landscape of politics in Scotland, I could probably get a game for the women's team just now if I reinvent myself. I might identify as Geraldine today.
Hey, you might make it this time.
I might make it. I've certainly got the physique for it.
So, Will, you're feeling brave already. And he's just slagging the guests off. He's literally there.
No, we've got a women's team. That's again, it's not part of the club directly. So the women's football team, it's our crest, our badge, our stadium that they use, but they're not part of that setup as yet.
Okay.
And again, the resources, the golfing resources is massive. Bobby does a great job in charge of them, but in a sincere note, with the changing landscape of football and so on, that is an area that's the next big thing. Commercially, that'll either get to or surpass the male game. At some point, because somebody will throw a lot of money into it, and like it or lump it, you get the people that cry out for, the quality bit that they say didn't exist. And it's quite. You kind of have to bear that in mind. It's a challenge because you get that perception. That if you ask Richard Keys.
Yeah.
He's not a good reference point, but the change of the change of landscape from what it was to what it is and where it's going, it's going to demand a lot of money. It's going to demand a lot of infrastructure, a lot of commercial activity. We need to try and get in that bandwagon, and I think our women's team do really well. Maybe not in terms of results, the results aren't there yet, but they do well in terms of how they put it out there and the buy-in that they get for the community and the people that's involved. And it's actually quite enjoyable to go to watch. It's quite enjoyable, aye. And you guys won, the Lions won the Europa, the
Euros.
Yeah. Won it, so aye. So the proof's in the pudding. If you stick at it and you invest in it, success is achievable.
Absolutely. I mean, we had Steph Meek on about a couple of months ago now. So she runs our local team, Margate. She runs their women's team. She's their manager there, and chatting to her, and she gets really good buy-in from the sort of men's side of the club. It's all under sort of one roof, so to speak, and she gets really good backing. But money-wise, they're not paid at her level yet. I think it's next. If they get promoted, I think they get paid, if I remember rightly. So they kind of go into that sort of semi-pro status and bits and pieces like that. But the buy-in she gets and the support from the club and the community is just insane. They get a couple of hundred going to their games.
Yeah, well, we to be fair, I think if the way we support it as a club, I believe, I need to double check this, but if you've got a season ticket, I think you can get access to the girls' games or the women's games.
Okay.
I'm sure that's the kind of bridge. But the rest of it, we need to work. We need to work harder to work more closely with them. But it's because it's new, and because the club's going through a transition period as well. There's a bit of growth that's still to go. But it's something. It's essential that you have. I've got a daughter. She's not into football, but if she was having that outlet for her, I think it's only fair, reasonable, and that she's got the same opportunities that my son's got.
Absolutely.
I'm happy the game's going that way. But it's still quite a considerable way behind commercially. But I can see it catching up at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting, but aye.
Absolutely. Honestly, we've got so many questions.
Yep.
I don't know. I'll say, where do we start? But so, in terms of kind of the plans for this season and everything that you kind of implemented so far, where do you see yourself? Obviously, I know we're going for promotion, etc. But the team generally, how do you see that evolving over the next couple of seasons?
I can't look that far ahead just now. We've got, because that would be dictated by budget.
Okay.
Well, what I can say is I'm looking at January to see how we can improve what we have in January.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also looking at June.
Already?
As well. Yeah, aye.
Okay.
Well, as of the 1st of January, you can maybe get a player in a pre-contract for the end of the season.
Yeah, of course.
So that work needs done now. So I'm working on that with the manager and with Declan. And we've made contact with a number of players. Whether or not it comes to fruition is another thing, but we're working on that. On Monday and Tuesday next week, I'm in Lisbon for the transfer room. I've got a forum.
Okay.
And I think there's 165 club participating in that. So I've got meetings set up with Liverpool and Beerschot in Belgium and a few others to set up networks at a bigger level.
Oh, fantastic.
That's in Monday. But aye, so I think the plan would be get out of this league into the Championship. If we're at the Championship, we need to bring in several new additions who are either in the Premier League or in that gap. So Declan devised a new structure for scouting. Then we're classifying players as A plus, A, B plus, B in these categories, and then we're basically tying in the divisions. So like A plus would be Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, whatever.
Yeah.
You would be the bottom end of the SPL. B would be the top end of the Championship. B plus would be the bottom end. B minus.
Okay.
So we can clearly identify what players we think can play at those levels, and what that does is it focuses your attention in your shortlist. So you need to start off with 100 players per position, and then it's okay. Well, with 5 scouts watch this guy, and the average of the 5 scouts reports give us A, B, C, D, E, or whatever, and we can then focus and hone in on what level of player we want to try and capture, and hopefully that's a good methodology of working. So that's in place just now. As I say, we're watching 44, 47 games a week. And we're just filtering our way through those players to see if there's anyone that we've missed or anyone that we're not aware of. And that's going to be our short window for January and June. But we might want the players, but they might want to come to us.
Yeah.
So that's the flip side of it. So it's always like maybe it's like getting into Harrods, with a tenner.
The baskets there that you use are quite nice, though.
You can leave an empty bag. It looks good, no substance.
Exactly. You never know. You can always find a bargain somewhere, I suppose, can't you? That's the thing.
So that's it. So that's where we're at. So January, I've already started working in January. We've got the manager's got 3 key targets he's identified. I've already made contact with the 3 of them. Okay. So we'll need to see how that plays out, and then we've got a plan B for if those 3 can come or want to come or don't come. We then know what to do next, but it's very, very specific targets. Okay. And then for June, that'll be a conversation that we have loosely. Yeah. But we'll start to firm up on that in January, and hopefully we can get our ducks in a row. You said 2 years. If we get promoted from the Championship to the SPL, that's a game changer. You're then shopping. You can then go into Harrods with 20 quid.
Yeah, I suppose your plans, I guess, will change, depending on where you are, obviously, in the league as well, I guess. That, as you said, in terms of like your budgets and the commercial side of things, it changes every plan, I suppose, does it? It
does. I think your Championship, although the quality is vastly different to yours down south, it's equally as difficult to get out of, because you've got a team from the top end division, if you like, coming out who have invested heavily. Normally, that's the case, and they fall into your league. Yeah. And then you've got other teams that have been in that league for a number of years that have spent good money and got good players and are tried and tested, and you're trying to break that. You're trying to break that kind of grasp they've got on what they need to do to survive or get promoted. So that'll be the challenge, and that's why it was important to us to get good players in 2-year contracts. So there's a commonality within the building. The players know each other. They know how they play. They know the systems. They know what the manager wants. And then you've got that consistency to take you into year 1 in the Championship if you make it. And hopefully that serves you. Hopefully that serves you well. Then you're adding quality to that again, and that's the quality that you're hoping springboards you into the SPL. So it's a hell of a plan, But there's so many moving parts to it for it to work properly.
Yeah, of course.
And every club's got the same ideas and objectives. So it's
just executing that better than them, I suppose, and having the players just play out their skin to just see you up the league, I suppose.
It becomes a lottery, because it's the thing about the beauty of football is it's 11 against 11 in a flat surface for the same period of time.
Yeah.
When if you turn up week in, week out, you do better than the guys that don't.
Yeah.
But they need to buy into the manager's vision, which our guys thankfully do. So hopefully we keep our manager for as long as we can. And hopefully, our players kind of turn it on. But that's the kind of that's the plan for going forward anyway. And again, to bring more into the club, we're hoping that the kids coming through, we'll get a few special talents that we can maybe move on, give them a career in the game, and make some money off them that will be reinvested back into the playing squad.
Yeah,
so it's cost. Yeah.
Perfect.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. and so just to sort of finish off, you've got your own business you've spoken about. Is that football related, or is that kind of separate?
No, well, it's a good question. I in very kind of broad layman's terms, my business started off with selling a photocopy resale company, and we serviced. That's what it was.
Okay.
In 2013 when it was set up. So we basically sold printers and photocopiers, and we serviced them, and we made a few quid from it, and had alright lifestyles. That was the plan. I then bought that business in 2017. I had a serious illness. I got last rites, and when I was in the hospital, I kind of realised that I'd made an arse of it. So if I died, my wife and my kids would have get 30% of what the owners wanted to give them because of how it was structured. Don't get me wrong, but the guys as in business were good guys, but they're businessmen first and foremost. So they would have given my family what my family was entitled to, and I don't imagine they'd have given them much more because one of them was a Scots guy and you're quite tight. So when I started to recover, it became incumbent on me to try and buy the business. So I bought the company from them. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Genuinely. It's
I'm
like,
sensing a theme here, Gerry. Every job you're having now. Yeah, I'm just like, I'll do it.
So, no, I mean, I was in it from its inception. 2000. My company's 10 years old on the 16th of December this year, and I've been in it from day one.
Oh wow!
But I went from having the security, a guy, Dave McCartney, who was my boss for a number of years, and he's a great guy. I had the security of having Dave in the company, who Dave's one of the guys that you go, guy, he's got it. Right. He's your Pep in the photocopy world. Like he knows what he's doing, and you go from having that security and that peace of mind to doing it yourself, right? And it's like, shit, how does that work? How does this work? Because although Dave's really good at what he does, he wasn't really too keen to share with me knowledge on how to run a business.
Right.
So although I was a director of the place, and although I worked reasonably close to him, I couldn't tell you about corporation tax, about VAT returns, about payroll, about all this stuff that you need to know. I didn't have a clue. And Dave never educated me in that. It's not his job to actually have asked questions, but he probably wouldn't have the time to give answers. But anyway, so I found myself in this situation that I spent 200 grand or whatever it was in buying a company, and I need to start swimming here because I don't know what to do. So as time went on, I managed to kind of, we're still here obviously, so I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
But what happened was, I started to kind of find my feet and get more familiar with things and put my own stamp on it. And then COVID kicked in. And overnight I could have lost my business because my revenue went from high five figures to £473. I've still got my invoice from April 2020. So I billed to my customer base 473 quid in April 2020 because everywhere closed down.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting thinking, wow, I've promised all my staff to keep their jobs. And I don't know how I'm going to. I had money in the bank, but I didn't have enough money to keep it going for a period of time that was indefinite. So I had to change things, and I moved into different commodities with the same customer base. So what I'd identified was, all right, I've got paying customers who are good paying customers. They all pay me on time. They're all happy with the service we deliver. So what other services can I provide to that base immediately that they need, that I can deliver, that will give me a revenue stream that I don't have? So HR was one. Human resources, IT and comms, because everyone's working from home.
Yeah.
Property services, and that was people refitting out their offices because of COVID. putting these perspex panels up and things, and other people were closing offices down or remodifying. So that was an option. So what then happened was I started selling all this stuff through my business into all these customers, and then it grew, into other areas. And then when we came back from lockdown, our lockdown was 6 months after years, I think. But when we come back from that, it was like, this just isn't right. The balance wasn't right. So I then had to break that up into a group of companies.
Ah, okay.
So it's like property services does this, HR does HR, IT and comms, this, and so I then had to break that up into a group. And then the football thing came along. So the group get put on the shelf, The sports management was in that as well, because I was working as an agent. I was
okay.
I was a registered intermediary with the English FA as well, so that was the sports management piece. I had some players that I was looking after and stuff, but so that was the sports management consultancy. So they've got this group of businesses under my business, but that then gets shelved when Hamilton came along, because I tried to buy the club in 2021. 2022. I tried to buy the club, and I shelved my focus, if you like, my focus and attention, to pursue the football thing. So that's, and that now I'm kind of getting back into it a bit more. I'm trying to find the right staff to take us forward, because the education that I've got for the football piece will help me massively with the growth of my own business.
Yeah, I suppose the network you're obviously building as well for the football side, that sports management side is going to be valuable, isn't it?
Well, I think one of my problems was I never monetised what I had. It's never been about money for me, so it's always been about people, and that's a feeling in my part, because if I applied a monetary value to everything, I'd be financially a lot more wealthy than I am now. But I've always done something because I've wanted to do it, and I've wanted the outcome to be right. So, like, for people, for example, I get more reward and fulfilment for seeing someone's growth. Because you can't put a price in that, though.
No, 100%.
Right? So I get a lot more reward from that than somebody give me a bonus for doing it. It's like, it's a bonus, big deal, But that guy's doing this for the rest of his life, and I've played a part in it.
Absolutely.
So that for me is kind of. That for me is hopefully that changes, because I need money.
I think that comes with the right people. The money will generally follow, won't it? Because the right people in the right places are performing up to that elite kind of level for you, because they work for you. They've bought into you, or bought into their line manager, or whoever it is.
I believe that. I mean, when I worked as a sales guy in this industry that I'm in, again, it was that I was never focused on money. I just wanted to be the best. And ironically, when you're number one, you get paid number one wages.
Yeah.
But that's a bit that's the lesson that I never learned when I was doing it, was I should have focused more on the money, and I'd have done things differently. Whereas, if I had it, everyone had it. Take my family on nice holidays, or I'd make sure my mates are okay and stuff, because the money's never my driver. You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
But now I've got 2 kids, so that's my priority, is to make sure they're left. What I can leave them, so they can go and enjoy their lives. So it's but I need to make a few changes to me first.
Plenty of time.
You never know. No, you never know during the corner. But I've got a good insurance policy, so if anything happens.
Your wife's listening to this going,
just now.
Amazing. Gerry, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Obviously, I appreciate we've kept you far longer than we even planned, but it's been honestly a fantastic conversation. I'm sure the listeners out there are absolutely loving this as well. So this will come out on Friday, so obviously we'll share it with you as well, and I'm sure the listeners will love it. A few listeners out there, if you can give us a like, give us a share, give us a comment, let us know your thoughts. But from us, thank you again, and speak to you soon.
No problem. Take care, lads.